We're back at the round table with the one bucket. So now we can begin. So you might see by the title, I've had a little bit of a problem with, how detailing is and what it's kind of become. And especially in the last couple of years, I've been only doing this for a year, so maybe especially in the last year or so, it's kind of become this over exaggerated monstrosity. Like there's just a little bit too much going on. And, especially for newer people coming into detailing, it can be very difficult to figure out what's actually good and what's not because there's just so much. I had this problem, and I've talked about this in the past before, but I kind of wanted to do a video focused on the overall aspect of it and how we can, kind of work together as a community to simplify it. I've made videos where I've, given tips and talked about certain things and just what actually works. And I'm going to continue doing that. Just like, am I even recording? All right, I always got to do the double check. One bucket army. Like, it's time to be real. You guys, I think, have probably realized it too when you look, at the market, just at different detailing shops, such as like Adams or Griot's or literally anything. I think there's a few exceptions to the rule, obviously, but most car detailing product manufacturers kind of gotten a little bit out of hand in terms of, what they're spitting out. And I get there's always like innovation in the market. There will always be new things coming around and improvements being made and all that. It's kind of difficult to justify some of them when you know that it's like kind of like a crappy product or whatever. I don't get why people do that. I see people like pulling in here all the time and then they just reverse and leave. Whoa. I swear there was like a bee in here earlier. Bees love the yellow bucket. I spend like way too much money on these stupid buckets. I just like the yellow, so I wanted yellow buckets, and I guess the shipping cost is probably a little ridiculous. So, but anyway, there is that added layer of tomfoolery or lollygagging that makes it quite difficult for people like you and me to find out what we actually want and need from our detailing products. You have all the different chemicals, you have all the different rags, you have all the different tools, you have all the different methods and techniques for doing things, and like that might be only like 4 categories that I've listed, but there's a lot to do with each single one of them. You look at pressure washing, you look at steaming, you look at different chemicals, like interior cleaning, exterior cleaning, like there's just so much to it, and that already in itself is a lot. I just kind of want to keep this as broad as possible because I want all of us to the hope is that all of us kind of come together to, ask questions and get answers. And I know every single detailer has like a different way of doing things, different methods. And so I think it's important that we also acknowledge that there's going to be a lot of different responses to these to these questions and a lot of different takes and views on things. And I guess really it comes down to, what are you willing to sacrifice and what are you willing to actually, and what is the benefit of what you're doing. So like if I'm really careful and slow about something, then it's going to take me a lot more time, but the results will usually be a lot less risky and a lot cleaner. So like for example, let's just say I do a 2-step wash with a 1 bucket. Then that's going to take me a little more time because I'm doing a 2-step wash, whereas if I just did a 1-step wash, then I'm risking scratching the car more, but I'm also going to save myself time. So there's all these different considerations that you can have when you're deciding what and how you want to approach things. And that can be another layer of complexity that you add to things. So a lot of it just comes from experience and knowing, what you can get away with and what you can't. And some people are just overly cautious about everything. Some people don't care that much. And then you have everybody else. So there's that big range. And so when you're watching videos on YouTube like mine or anybody else's, there's always someone's always within that range. And a method might work for you, but then it might over time, cause damage or do things to your car that you weren't expecting. So that's why I think it's also important that it's kind of like an impossible discussion, really. So I'm trying to think of how to make a benefit come out of this. A a lot of my videos have been on different methods for doing things, not so much about product. I have had maybe 1 or 2 videos about specific products. Part of this is going to be a resolution of like community, like how do we build a good community for this? You know, the other part is how do we also have that community, you know, sort of in lockstep with how you do things. Because, you know, even if we did have a community where all of us detailers were on a Discord or something, you know, there's still going to be people who have different answers for things and different ways of doing things and different levels of care and all that. And so it can be kind of difficult even within a group to come to one singular conclusion. So if you don't have something and you want to learn more about it, you ask that question, right? You try and figure it out. And then once you have it, then you can experiment and try things out. There's a certain depth to that exists. You know, there's some things you can't really try out, right? Like you can't really just try out vinyl wrapping for fun because you have to get a huge roll of vinyl wrap and that costs a lot of money. Or you can't just try out ceramic coating because that also costs a lot of money, and if you mess it up, it's kind of hard to undo. I really don't know where I'm going with this. Well, let me just talk about how much product there is now and tooling and how that's kind of ridiculous. And then I'll get into the other chemicals and like techniques and stuff. With car detailing products and tools, there's become a lot of like bloat within that. Like you see, there's like tons of different air tools for like applying different substances, or, you know, there's tons of different brushes and applicator pads and just all these different things. And sometimes applicator pads are necessary. Like if you're doing a ceramic coat, it's going to be necessary to get that even layer for your ceramic coat. Some protectants work better when you do have an applicator pad, and that's especially true for ceramic coating. I don't think anything else is really true for that, really only ceramic coating. So the majority of applicator pads I find to be unnecessary, and I have used them in the past, but that was like me just getting into detailing, buying things and trying things out. Most of the time, applicator pads I've found aren't too useful. They're good for really nothing. I guess like maybe if you're hand polishing, then that could be useful. But if you're gonna be doing polishing like a lot, then just get yourself a rotary or a DA polisher or something that will just make your life a lot easier and save your arms. Because if you're always buffing out with one arm, your one arm's gonna be like ginormous. Like just imagine you're just buffing out with the one arm. I don't think applicator pads generally are useful. You can fight me on that, but every time I've used an applicator pad, whether it's on for my tire gel or for like plastic protectants and stuff, I found a microfiber towel can do the same job. You know, there's really no extra tooling needed there. So I always just use microfiber towels, and it's very simple. They clean up well. It's not like the protectant's sticking into the towel at all. Yeah, that's one category. The air tools, you know, they can be useful, but when you're spraying like a lot of chemical, it might be nice. But I generally find that, you know, if I'm spraying a lot of chemical, I can just use a pump sprayer and I won't really have any troubles. I can get that if you're just using a spray bottle the whole time, like that can get a little tiring, especially if you're doing something like a rinseless wash all over your car, or like a lot of carpet cleaner, or a lot of any cleaner can be very hard on your hand. So the pump sprayers are usually really good, but the air tools I haven't found too useful for applying chemicals. They're really good for like agitating the surface though, and I personally don't use them, but I will say that they are good for agitation and also getting into crevices like that. Air tools generally for applying chemicals, not super useful, but if you're applying chemicals, just stick to pump sprayers, you know, normal spray bottles for, you know, lighter amounts of chemical use. Like I use spray bottles for like my interior cleaner or glass cleaner and a few other things. But for the majority of stuff like paint protectants and tire cleaners and whatnot, I'll use a pump sprayer because it's just, otherwise I'll be spraying all day and all night. You know, you wake up and your 2 fingers are like stuck like this and you're like, It's tough work. This isn't really exactly where I pictured the video going, but you know, it's the only way I can break it up for you guys that'll make it maybe a little bit more digestible, because otherwise it's too abstract, I feel like. Pressure washers and all that, and there's a lot to those. I'm not gonna get into that. Steamers, extractors, steamer extractors, vacuums. With a vacuum, just try and go around. All I'm trying to say is just don't get absorbed in all the fancy schmancy tools that you can do. There are these things called like Scrub Ninja, and I actually will have a video coming out about some stuff I got on Temu where I'm gonna see if those really do anything good. And I got a couple of Scrub Ninjas from that. They aren't Scrub Ninjas, but they're like some kind of Chinese brand. So I'll see if those do any good work, but those are a good product that I've seen people use. Like they're really nice for things like plastics and really actually agitating them well. Like if you do a wheel, you can, really agitate that well, where a microfiber towel, it's a little harder to get like that actual agitation. Like sure, you can agitate the surface with it, but it's hard to get like that really like scrubbed agitation, if you know what I mean. So I mean, there are some unique tools that could be useful for you. I generally find brushes and microfiber towels to be the only really big tools I need for interior other than a vacuum. If we talk about, power tools, there's not too much to know except just know what you need for your car or what you need for a car. You don't have to go overkill on really any of those tools necessarily. They're usually all going to be pretty straightforward, and you'll be able to find tools that are specifically meant for automotive. So that area shouldn't be too confusing, but there is still a lot to all the setup and all of that can take a little bit of research and time. Now, if we look at chemicals, you see all like a crazy amount of different like cleaners, cleaner protectants, and then just protectants. And those all serve their purpose. They all serve a specific purpose, which might be easy to understand, it might not be, but like here, I'm getting kind of sweaty. It's really hot out. So here I have 3 different chemicals, and they all they'll just serve purposes. So completely useless sentence, by the way. So I have 2 interior cleaners here, and they're both just labeled interior, but they're slightly different. So this is the PNS interior cleaner. Stuff smells like cherries, works really well for cleaning, but it doesn't have any protectant, no antibacterial. Whereas this interior is the one from CarPro, it's InterQD. It has a little bit of protection in it, a little bit of cleaning power as well, and it's antibacterial. If you're looking at different interior cleaners, you'll notice there's often ones that are just strict cleaners, and then there's some that are cleaners protectants. In terms of how well they clean, I noticed they both do about the same. And this one just leaves a little bit of extra protection on it, on the surface for, sun rays and all that. But if I look at something like the silicone dressing, this is CarPro Pearl diluted and it's milk. This is like a strict plastic protectant, not just for plastic, but it's meant just to protect. So if I compare using just this interior cleaner and this protectant, it's gonna have a lot better results than if I just used this interior cleaner without any protectant. When you're trying to identify, do I want a separate protectant and cleaner, or do I just want them together? Understand how much time you want to spend on it, because this one I have to clean and then apply, whereas this one I can just do it in one step. And I could also do a protectant after if I wanted. It's not like you can't do a protectant after using an interior cleaner that has a little bit of protection in it. But these interior cleaners with that protection are gonna be a lot more expensive usually, almost double the price of just a strict interior cleaner. Weigh it how you want, but the fact is that there's still a lot of choices to choose from with chemicals. And so I personally prefer the method of just doing the cleaning and then the protecting separately. It gives you like a clear duty on what something is doing. So I know that this is taking all of the dirt off the surface, whereas if I use this CarPro, it might add something that may make my protection have a harder time, whereas the cleaner is just exposing the surface by itself. This is just for interior cleaners. It also applies to other things, like you can get separate wheel and tire cleaners, which I've mentioned before, or you can get separate leather, plastic, and all these different types of cleaners. I just think that, usually you want to stick with what's simplest. So like, for example, I'll use a wheel and tire cleaner because it's really easy to apply. I don't have to worry about if I get accidentally some rubber cleaner on the rim or vice versa. It's just very simple. In order to make your life easier as a detailer, try and make things as simple for yourself as possible. Get things that clean multiple surfaces really well. And you might just be like, oh, well, why don't I just get an APC? And to that I just say, an APC, you're gonna encounter a lot of different surfaces on different cars in different states. And so an APC might be able to clean them all, but usually there's gonna be some kind of adverse effect. So if you get like a cleaner that's specifically meant for a set of surfaces, then if something does go wrong, you usually will be able to blame yourself rather than the cleaner, because the cleaner won't, at least in my experience, won't ever damage a surface that you don't intend to damage if the product is meant for it. So I've never had a situation where I'm using like interior cleaner on a seat and then it just blows up the seat. I gotta do the blow up, all right? I did it again. Got you twice. I don't know why, I have so much fun doing that. The bucket's still here, by the way. See, he's been paying attention the whole time. The bucket. So when it comes to chemicals, keep it simple. Find things that work well for you and make your life easier. Yeah, so like the example of interior cleaner is a pretty common one because you're gonna use a ton of interior cleaner, but you also have things like for your carpets and, you know, for your seats and stuff. And I don't have like a dedicated leather cleaner versus plastic cleaner. I think that's a little overkill. Instead of using an interior cleaner, I probably could use an APC if I applied it to the same surfaces, but I don't think an APC usually smells as good as an interior cleaner, and it also is gonna have a little bit harsher of a cleaning effect to it. So it's really probably good for dirty cars, but I haven't had really much dirt where an interior cleaner wasn't able to take care of it. That should give you a good idea of what kind of chemicals you should be looking for when you are looking, because it can be pretty challenging, especially with how many different types of chemicals there are and stuff. I think I have like at least 20 different gallons of different chemicals. I'm trying to weed that down to like a base layer that I really like and I will stick with, so that, you know, it makes my life easier instead of having to go swap between instead of doing that, I'm just swapping between like maybe 2 or 3. Not actually, but it'd probably be something more like 8 or 9 chemicals-ish. That's the dream. That's the detailer's dream. Having one chemical that does it all. Oh, that's just APC. Okay, well, never mind. All-purpose cleaner, all-protectant classical. I don't know, I was trying to think of something to do cleaner protectant, but whatever. So that kind of covers, you know, what detailing tools, and then also the chemicals, and then there's the techniques. This one, it's gonna just mostly take experience and time. You can do as much research as you want, but I've done a ton of research on different techniques for doing things, and some of them work, some of them don't. You know, even if I find one that doesn't work, you know, usually I'll just try doing some other method that, you know, either I'm like, man, would be a lot easier if I did it this way. Like, I just try things out and I see what works. So that's gonna be where you're gonna learn most of your detailing techniques, is based on what kind of chemicals and tools do I have, how do I get this car done as fast as I can while also doing a really good job. And so that's kind of like the detailer's motto, fast but all right, I guess. That's what I should tell customers when they are like, how much time are you gonna take? I can go fast, but it's gonna be all right, I guess.
You serious?
Yeah. With techniques, like, just take the time to try different things. There's certain things like coatings, wraps, and, you know, restoration, tints that you won't really be able to just like try out. It's gonna have a pretty big front end cost to it. Invest where it makes sense for you and what you wanna do with detailing, or maybe with your own work. Maybe you just want to do something for yourself, and don't worry necessarily about doing everything. Like I said before, let's work to simplify detailing. As the One Bucket Army, let's work together, simplifying it. Guys, if you ever have any questions, throw them in the comments, because, you know, that's what I'm here for. I love getting questions from you guys, and I get a little nervous answering them, of course, but I will answer them. Once we get the Discord going, it'll be a lot nicer. And also, a little spoiler alert, I think I might have mentioned this before, but I am gonna be looking into live streaming soonish. Not that soon, but I did find a good way to do it, and, you know, that does bring me a little excitement, because I think it'd be really fun to do some of that. I haven't really ever seen a car wash live stream type deal, so I think that could be kind of epic. The only thing is, like, I don't want it to eat into the quality of my videos, because you know how quality my videos are. I mean, look at these thumbnails, guys. The absolute quality. You know, that's probably the weakest thing, is my thumbnails. I'm so bad at doing that stuff. I'll spend like 4 hours editing a video and I'm like, man, I really don't want to make a thumbnail right now. Luckily, I have had a lot more time to work on this stuff, so the quality should be going up.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Yeah, we'll see. It's a beautiful day. Get some vitamin D, go outside, enjoy the weather, go and detail your car outside, do something. You'll enjoy it. Yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Hope you enjoyed this kind of more sit-down video again. I like doing these every now and then, just very simple, and let's just discuss things a little bit. Or I guess it's mostly just me discussing things, because, you know, you guys don't ask me very many questions yet, so I haven't been able to answer anything, but, you know, one day. What? How did that get there? Whatever. I'll see you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your day. I love you guys.